Happy Monday, everyone, and welcome into this community update. There is no better way to start the week than hanging out with Grace Sharkey, co-host of The Stockout. Grace, thank you so much for being here this morning.
Hey, excited to be here. Halloween's coming up. It's going to be a spooky week, so happy to be here with you.
I'm excited for Halloween. It's going to be a lot of fun. Do you already know what you're going to be going as on Halloween, or are you doing like a party this weekend, maybe dressing up early, since I know Halloween's on Thursday and then, afterwards it's Friday and is November. And so it can make it kind of weird for a Halloween party.
Yeah. I got one of those Day of the Dead masks. I think I'm just going to like keep it cute and put that on and pass out some candy, but it's the older you get, the parties just slowly dwindle and dwindle away.
All right, Grace. Well, I'm going to make a bad pun now. We're going to be finishing up with the treats and move on to the tricks. And we're talking about crime this morning. And Grace, organized retail crime has evolved a lot in the recent years. Why do you think it has become such a prominent issue in retail?
Well, I think a big part of it is clearly just the uptick that we've seen. A number of surveys have come out from the National Retail Federation showcasing that not only are they seeing more theft in stores, but again, it seems to be more organized, whether it's attacking the store kind of as a whole, but often we're seeing as drivers or trucks are coming in to deliver goods to the stores, that there's these like in between moments that they're taking advantage of that, which means there's, of course, sitting out, waiting and learning when these trucks are coming in. So I think you see a big part of that. At the economy, of course, is usually a big part of why you see crime get a little bit worse in these areas. But I think it goes back to what we see a lot in just freight fraud in particular, where there's just not a real strong jurisdiction point of who is in charge of these crimes. So again, right, when the police aren't sure if it's their jurisdiction or they don't have enough evidence. Of course, a lot of these organized crime units are really, really intelligent in how they pull the stuff off. Then there's not really too much that they can do. So I think it's, some of us, we always kind of like joke around, right? Like, if we take something here and there, what's it mean? But over time, right, it's starting to add up. And a lot of these retailers are starting to see some considerable losses from it as well. And it's just a crime that no one really wants to raise their hand and say, hey, we're going to be trying to eliminate this crime and we're going to hit it heavy. And so it just leaves that perfect scenario for an individual to unfortunately get in there and get their hands on these goods.
Grace, I used to work at Academy Sports and Outdoors in Chattanooga, and I even noticed the theft being a problem when I worked there. I worked in the shoe department, and if I would find a box of shoes just on the ground, and I just assumed somebody had tried something on and just left it there and didn't put it back. Pretty common thing. But sometimes I would open that box and it would be a person's old pair of shoes that they had swapped out. And even when we knew that somebody was stealing something, our manager told us that we're not allowed to confront them about it. So there are like those issues there. And then I remember Dooner, he showed a video on What the Truck one day where it was tons of people robbing this rail car with these giant boxes. We assumed that they were TVs based on the size, but yeah, the issue is in the stores, it's in transport, it's everywhere. But I know that there's a group trying to raise awareness about this. The National Retail Federation has its Fight Retail on Crime Day last week. What kind of impacts do you think this has on raising awareness, or do you think it has any at all?
I think it does have an impact, especially we've seen a number of bills now introduced into Congress just saying that something needs to happen about this. Whether the big key, it seems like most people are creating what they call an organized retail crime coordination center, right? Giving someone that job of watching this type of crime, working with retailers, right, in your situation, teaching them how to deal with these situations when they occur, what to watch for, red flags, things of that nature, and just allowing a group to actually take ownership of the crime and hopefully attack and mitigate it as well. And I think that's huge because the fact that we haven't seen a lot of these bills introduced in the past, and now we're seeing not only a big group of retailers showing up, but showing up to educate Congress on why this is an issue is big. What's even great too about this day is they held a Zoom conference for everyone except for the journalists to show up, right? But allowing those individuals that did show up to the Zoom meeting and learning more about organized retail crime, now giving them the resources to reach out to their local state and federal representatives in order to get this thing moving. And I did spend some time in my past working for a senator as well, and I can tell you, complain again, just like freight fraud, complaining about retail crime or just talking about it inside your own little circles isn't going to do anything about it. But actually showcasing, hey, a large group of us in your jurisdiction or in your constituents care about this issue and want someone to take a hold of it is huge. And senators will listen to it again if they are communicated to appropriately. So I'm excited to see that they're taking a bigger push on this and making this a bigger issue and showcasing, because at the end of the day, just like freight fraud, if these numbers keep adding up, there will be a time where these retailers say, listen, we need to start to cushion our pricing for our potential losses as well. So there is a situation where we do start paying for this as some way as consumers. And I think if we want to avoid that situation happening, it's smart for us to reach out to our local representatives and get this moving, this education, but also hopefully this committee moving to make sure that someone is in charge of watching and mitigating these crimes.
A special task force for it is a really good idea. They really bring in, I know they bring in task force for certain situations that are really big circumstances. You think about COVID, they had a COVID task force to help try to mitigate or limit the spread of the virus and to get knowledge out there. And I think one of the reasons that organized retail crime is such a big issue is because of a lack of knowledge, a lack of data on the crime. Are there ways that, or can you share insights on how obtaining this kind of data could be really difficult for people?
Yeah, so again, the hard part about this is that there's different kind of definitions for this type of crime, right? That you could have a situation where people are just kind of shoplifting, and you talked about earlier, you have shrink issues where pallets of products just go missing. And shrink, oftentimes in these reports, is 100% reported as retail crime, ORC, or theft, but it's not always theft. A lot of times, just pallets are taken off at the wrong warehouse. Things like that happen. All of us in this industry know that. And so a lot of times, and a big argument sometimes for retailers is that the numbers that they are reporting as theft or retail crime is higher or overestimated than it should be. Which again would make me fearful that that's probably being cushioned somewhere in the pricing that we're getting as consumers. And on top of that, a lot of even the NRF's data is way past due. And there's a survey that I had recently read, but I want to say it was like 2016, 2017, somewhere around there. And so again, just getting updated information, really trying to figure out and pinpoint where a lot of this theft is happening and where large amounts of it are happening, so that when we do get this committee going and this task force rolling, that they have an idea of really where to start, right? Because I think that's the problem is, yeah, sure, we can make a group about it, but if we don't know where exactly a lot of this is occurring, then we don't really know how to mitigate it at the end of the day. So I think there needs to be redefining of what this theft is in different maybe subcategories and sections, so that we don't just see all of this reported as shrink. But there's, I think, a lot more data that we can pull just on the supply chain aspect and where a lot of this theft or shrinkage is happening as well.
Grace, we could go on and on about organized retail crime and how to fight it and ways to get this data for people to be able to fight back against it. But we're coming up on time. We've got the stock out coming up here in about 20 minutes. What are you and Mike getting into today? Is it going to be more on organized retail crime, or are you going to be diving into a little more topics?
Actually, we're going to have our friends over at Echo joining us today, so that's going to be a good time. We'll update everyone on some sonar charts and some market data, of course, that we're seeing as well. But it's going to be a good one. We'll go over earnings a little bit, and then, of course, bring on our wonderful sponsors. So make sure you guys check that out here in a few minutes.
It's going to be a good one, Grace. And if they want to check out that episode, how can they do that?
They can see it here, or they can, of course, get it on YouTube or anywhere they listen to podcasts as well. But we do go over a lot of charts of that nature. So I always tell people go watch the YouTube page so you have an idea of exactly what's happening in the market today.
Grace, it's always a pleasure getting to check in with you every week and getting updated on all of these topics. Thank you so much again for joining us, and we will talk to you next week.
Thanks, Isaiah.